There is a particular kind of silence that isn't empty. It's a silence full of unsaid words, a conversation paused mid-sentence. The phone lies still on the table, a dark, quiet rectangle. But inside you, something is not quiet at all. There's a hum, a low-grade tension, a feeling of an invisible thread stretching out from your chest into the void, pulled taut. You feel him on the other end of it, not in a mystical, telepathic way, but in the way your own nervous system keeps an account open. This isn't just missing someone, this is a state of psychological waiting. It's the feeling of an unresolved chord in a piece of music, holding your breath for a note that never comes. Your logical mind might be telling you to move on, to forget, to close the door. But a deeper part of you, a part that doesn't listen to logic, keeps the door ajar. It whispers that the story isn't over, that his silence is a message in itself, a puzzle to be solved. And so, you become a detective of absence, searching for clues in the space he left behind. You reread old messages, not for what they say, but for the ghost of what they felt. You analyze the timing of his withdrawal. Was it after a moment of closeness? After you showed vulnerability? After he did? Your mind spins scenarios, creating entire dialogues that might be happening inside his head. He's busy. He's scared. He's thinking of you, but his pride won't let him reach out. He's waiting for you to make the first move. Each of these stories is a small comfort, a way to make sense of the emotional static. But they all serve one primary function. They keep the connection alive in your psyche, even if it's dead in the physical world. They keep that invisible thread from snapping. The painful truth is that this state of constant, low-level analysis is exhausting. It drains your life force, your creativity, your presence in your own life. You are here, but a significant part of your energy is over there, in the land of what if, tied to a man who is physically absent. The question that haunts you, why is he silent if he's still thinking of me, seems to be about him. But what if it's not? What if the intensity of your need to know, the way this particular silence hooks you, is actually a message from your own unconscious? This is where the surface story ends and the deeper psychological reality begins. The pain you feel is real, but its source may not be what you think. It's not just about a man who isn't texting you back. It's about what his silence has activated within you. It has knocked on the door of a very old room in your psyche, a room that was there long before you ever met him. From a Jungian perspective, when a situation triggers an emotional reaction that is far greater than the objective circumstances warrant, we are no longer dealing with a simple event. We are dealing with a complex. A complex, in the world of Carl Jung, is like a splinter in the psyche. It's a cluster of memories, emotions, and beliefs, all bound together around a core archetypal theme. It acts like a mini-personality within us, with its own agenda and its own energy. And when it gets activated, it can hijack our conscious mind, our ego, and flood us with its feelings. The specific pattern we are exploring here is the activation of an unconscious attachment complex. This isn't just about your attachment style. It's a deeply rooted psychic structure, often formed in early life, around experiences of connection that were inconsistent, conditional, or abruptly withdrawn. A child who experiences a parent who is warm and present one moment and cold and distant the next, learns a powerful nonverbal lesson. Connection is precarious, and you must remain vigilant to keep it. The child's nervous system learns to exist in a state of waiting, of trying to decipher the mood of the other, of trying to be good enough to guarantee the return of love. This pattern, this knot of emotional memory, doesn't just disappear when we grow up. It sinks into the unconscious and lies dormant. It becomes a complex. Then, years later, you meet a man. The connection is intense, the conversations are deep. You feel seen, and then he pulls away. He goes silent. His behavior, for whatever reason of his own, perfectly matches the original pattern that created the wound. His silence doesn't just feel like a rejection in the present. It feels like the rejection. It echoes that original feeling of abandonment, that terrifying moment when the warmth disappeared and you were left in the cold, wondering what you did wrong. Your attachment complex is now fully awake, and its mission is not to let you move on. Its mission is to resolve the original trauma. It wants to get the warmth back. It believes that if it can just make this person come back, if it can just solve the puzzle of this silence, then the old wound will finally be healed. This is why it feels so urgent, so fated. Your conscious ego might want to preserve your dignity and walk away, but the complex has a much stronger, more primitive goal. It has taken over the controls. It is the one replaying the conversations. It is the one fueling the obsessive thoughts. It is the one keeping that invisible thread pulled tight, convinced that on the other end is the validation it has been waiting for its entire existence. You are not waiting for a man. You are in the grip of a complex that is using him as a stand-in for a much older emotional debt. The cruel irony is that the complex doesn't actually want peace. It thrives on the tension of the push and pull dynamic. A man who is consistently available and communicative would not activate this complex in the same way. It is specifically the man who offers intense connection, followed by withdrawal, who becomes the perfect key for this particular lock. Your psyche, in its unconscious attempt to heal, has found a person who can perfectly recreate the conditions of the original wound. So, what is happening in his mind? While your complex is busy weaving a grand narrative of fated love and tragic misunderstanding, his reality is likely far less romantic and far more about his own inner world. A man who withdraws into silence after moments of intimacy is often governed by his own set of unconscious forces. One of the most common is a profound, often unacknowledged, fear of intimacy. On the surface, he desires connection. His conscious mind, his persona, the mask he shows the world, might be that of a confident, capable man. But underneath, the prospect of true emotional closeness can feel like a threat to his ego, his sense of self. For many men, the ego is constructed around ideals of independence, control, and invulnerability. When he feels a deep connection with a woman, his anima, the inner feminine archetype within his psyche, is stirred. This connection feels wonderful, but it also feels like a loss of control. It makes him feel vulnerable, exposed. The warmth and depth you shared might have felt like a beautiful opening to you, but to his fragile ego, it could have felt like a floodgate opening, threatening to drown his carefully constructed sense of autonomy. So, he retreats. The silence is a defense mechanism. It's his ego's desperate attempt to regain its footing, to rebuild the walls, to feel in control again. In this state, he does think about you. Of course he does. He replays the moments of connection because they were real and powerful for him too. But he replays them with a sense of danger. His thoughts are a confusing mix of longing and fear. I want her, but I will lose myself. This feels too good, which means it will hurt when it ends. His silence is not a void. It is a battlefield. It's a war between his desire for connection, his anima, and his ego's terror of being consumed by it. He might tell himself he's just busy with work or needs some space. These are the rationalizations his ego provides to mask the deeper, unconscious fear. He doesn't write because writing would be an act of moving closer, of re-engaging with the very vulnerability that sent him running in the first place. Every drafted and deleted message is a small skirmish in that inner war. And here is the most important part to understand, for your own sake. His battle is not about you. You are the catalyst, not the cause. He is not withdrawing because you are too much or not enough. He is withdrawing because you made him feel something that his own psychological structure is not yet equipped to handle. He is caught in his own complex, likely an avoidance or intimacy fear complex, which is the mirror image of your attachment complex. You are two people, each unconsciously playing out a very old script with a new actor. The moment you truly grasp this, the entire dynamic begins to shift. The pain starts to lose its personal sting. It's not that you did something wrong. It's that your light happened to illuminate a part of his psyche that he keeps in darkness. And his withdrawal happened to trigger a part of your psyche that has been waiting for this exact scenario to play out again. This is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. It's easier to believe in a romantic story of a scared man who just needs more time, because that story keeps the hope of his return alive. It's much harder to look in the mirror and acknowledge the part you play, to see that your own attachment complex has a vested interest in keeping you hooked. This brings us to your own shadow. In Jungian terms, the shadow is the part of ourselves that we repress or deny. For the woman who is always understanding, always patient, always waiting, the shadow often contains her unexpressed anger, her frustration, and her deep need for her own needs to be met. The persona she wears is that of the cool girl or the undemanding woman. She prides herself on not being needy, but in the shadow, a deep resentment simmers. This complex keeps you in a loop because it collaborates with your persona. The persona says, "Be patient, don't push him away." Meanwhile, the complex gets its fix of emotional intensity from the drama of waiting. And your shadow, the part of you that is starving for consistent love and respect, gets suppressed once again. You are betraying yourself to keep a fantasy alive. If this is naming something you have been unable to say out loud, take a moment. The first step to reclaiming your power is to see the pattern without judgment. To see the invisible thread, not as a romantic bond of fate, but as the leash of a complex. The turning point is not a grand gesture. It is a quiet, internal shift. It's the moment you withdraw your projection from him. A projection is when we unconsciously cast an image or quality from our own psyche onto another person. You have projected the role of savior or resolver onto him. You believe he holds the key to healing your old wound of abandonment. The moment of awakening is when you realize, he doesn't have the key, he never did. The key is in your own hand. The healing doesn't come from him finally texting you. The healing comes from you finally turning your attention away from the silent phone and toward the part of you that is in so much pain. This is the return to the self. The self, in Jungian psychology, is the true center of our being, the wholeness that our ego is only a small part of. Your attachment complex has pulled your center of gravity out of you and placed it in him. Returning to the self means consciously and deliberately pulling that center of gravity back home. How is this done? It begins with a decision. The decision to stop feeding the complex. The complex feeds on your obsessive thoughts, your analysis, your hope. You starve it by redirecting that energy. When you feel the urge to check his social media, to reread the old messages, to ask your friends for their opinion, pause, take a breath, and turn that questioning inward. Instead of asking, "What is he thinking?" ask, "What am I feeling in my body right now?" You will likely feel a familiar tension, an anxiety, a hollowness in your chest. That is the feeling of the complex. Don't run from it, breathe into it. Place a hand on your heart and offer that feeling the one thing it never got in the first place, your own consistent, loving presence. Speak to that younger part of you that is terrified. Say to her, "I am here. I am not leaving you. I will not abandon you, even if he has. His presence is not required for you to be safe. My presence is what you need." This is not just positive thinking. This is an act of psychological reparenting. You are giving your inner child the security that the complex is desperately seeking from an external, unreliable source. Imagine that invisible thread of energy connecting you to him. See it in your mind's eye. It might glow with a desperate, anxious light. Now, imagine taking a pair of golden scissors and cutting it, not with anger or hatred, but with love and a fierce commitment to your own wholeness. As you cut it, you are not saying, "I hate you." You are saying, "I release you from the job of healing me, and I release myself from the role of waiting for you." Feel the energy that was flowing out of you through that thread, now returning to you. Feel it filling up that empty space in your chest. This is your life force. It belongs to you. It is for you to create, to build, to live. This process is not a one-time event. The complex is strong. It will try to re-establish the connection. You will have moments of weakness, moments where the urge to check on him, to hope, feels overwhelming. In those moments, be kind to yourself. Acknowledge the pull of the old pattern, and then gently, firmly, cut the thread again. Return your focus to your own inner world. The question is no longer whether he will return. The question is who you are becoming in his absence. Are you becoming a woman who is hollowed out by waiting? Or are you becoming a woman who is using this painful opportunity to finally heal a deep, foundational wound? When you stop chasing, when you stop waiting, when you stop being an available source of validation for his own push-pull dynamic, something profound changes in the energetic field between you. He will feel your absence, not just your physical absence, but the absence of your psychic energy. The silence, which was once his tool of control, now becomes a mirror reflecting his own emptiness back at him. He might reach out, he might not. But here is the beautiful, liberating truth. By the time he does, if he does, it will no longer matter in the same way. You will have closed the open loop inside yourself. You will have satisfied the deep need for security not with his words, but with your own self-commitment. His message will arrive to a different address. It will not be received by the desperate, waiting complex. It will be received by your centered self. And from that place of wholeness, you can see him clearly for the first time. Not as a savior or a villain, but as another human being, struggling with his own fears and his own complexes. You will be able to respond not from a place of need, but from a place of choice. You will have the freedom to decide if his energy is something you truly want in your life, or if your newfound peace is far more valuable. The goal was never to master a technique to make him come back. The goal was to use his silence as a doorway into your own soul, to find the abandoned parts of yourself and bring them home, to become so whole within yourself that the silence of another is no longer a referendum on your worth. It is simply weather passing by, while you remain rooted, calm, and free. My silence is not a game. It is my return to myself.